It's like, you know, it's just like, shut up. Music is music. Music is music. One could make a point for black classical music. One could make a point for white classical music. If we want to really get prosaic, we can go as far as we want with it. But the fact is, nobody owns, quote, the music, new music, any music. The only thing you can hope to own are your ears and the technique that you've worked on and the music you've decided to listen to, and that's it. And all this other crap is just, it's propaganda, and I don't like it. I really don't like it.
It's also interesting to hear you talk about this in the light of last night's performance, because I don't know if you had the opportunity to see the beautiful show yesterday in Kanonhallen with Anne Hilde Neset's arrangements.
Which you were responsible for inviting me to do.
So I'm kind of slightly biased here. But yeah, you're talking about improvisation and jazz and classical and so on. And this was kind of a meeting, a little bit of worlds with a conductor and Anne Hilde Neset, who's very much of a classical composer, and you, and just having have the privilege of being part of this process from the project in its infant stage and up until yesterday, where there's this going back from what is improvised and what gets notated, and when you have 60 players, you need instruction. And so yeah, maybe you want to say a little bit about about your experience in that whole.
What an honor for me to be able to play with such great musicians. My God, and these are the kind of musicians who have to take a score that is really difficult, really, really difficult. Like, for example, the Kevin Boland's piece, very difficult piece, have to have 2 days to rehearse it. Maybe, and by this I don't mean 2 full days. 2 days of maybe 2 hours one day, 3 hours the next, maximum. A dress rehearsal and performance. And those people have to be master readers, master musicians. This stuff is really hard to read. I mean, and I don't know how they do it, honestly. I don't know how they do it. I was a dreadful sight reader. I may even be worse than I used to be, probably. And I was amazed at their abilities, and their humility, their sweetness. It was a great, great honor for me to play with them, and we had such fun together. We really did. And the conductor, Ingvar, I don't know how to say his last name. Ingvar Barakaby. Barakaby? Yeah. Okay. He's extraordinary. He's such a great musician. I mean, and he is very, very clear in his cues. He is not one of those guys who's just going through the motions. I mean, he is really. He's very, very clear. And how he can do that with having a score for such a brief amount of time, this is truly amazing to me. I worked under conductors that really didn't know their material, and I would have to avoid watching them in order to get the one. I mean, seriously. And if you're preparing for a high D, you really need to just not look at that clown up there. And this guy is the consummate professional. I mean, and I have to say that working with conductors is something I don't do hardly ever.
There's a kind of mysticism around conductors in a way. They're quite powerful personalities, and they have to be, I guess. I don't know that many personally, I have to say, confess, and they're very often male. I only maybe know a couple of female. It's sort of a mysterious profession.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, but I can tell you that this gentleman is a great, great musician.
Great.
Whether he's probably a pianist. I mean, I know that he is. He has to be a conductor. If you're not a pianist, you can't possibly be a conductor. I wouldn't think. I know there'll be a conductor here that will define not me personally. Go ahead, define me.
Try. And Anne Hilde Neset, of course, the composer.
His orchestrations, which one must be very careful. I find that word so misleading. One said, when a person writes, Diamanda composed a work, and then Jon
Eyvind
Neset, I get the last name's wrong, that this gentleman orchestrated it. It implies that it doesn't say much about what orchestration is, and I would have to say that, whereas I wrote the voice and piano work. After that, this person, who's called an orchestration person, is the one who wrote all the orchestral parts, all of them, you know, based in part upon my original composition. But after that, he's on his own, and that is not my work, that is his work. And I believe that one should more accurately say voice and piano work composed by Diamanda Galás, orchestral work composed by Jon. And that is why I made the point on stage, because I just think it is gruesomely unfair, especially in, quote, free music circles, to suddenly have some guy asking master musicians, improvisers, to improvise their parts and then suddenly take credit as the composer of the work. I think that is just hideous. Mm. They're trained for 25 years just so they can get an also ran credit in a big man's composer record. What a bunch of puke. I really dislike that.
Yeah.
Giving credit doesn't hurt, doesn't break your legs.
Because when you invite musicians to play free, it's one proposition.
It's for free.
And then suddenly it winds up having someone else's name on it.
Yeah.
Mentioning no names.
That's all right. I'll have a footnote list later. Who pays me?
So, might you work with Jon Eyvind Neset more?
Yes, we've already discussed that, and I have some electronic projects that I want to do with him, and that could be very, very interesting, especially with the addition of the basses and the percussion and the horns and whatever else, you know. I mean, really, he has a mastery that I don't have, and what a great pleasure that is. It's I used to feel much more close to the vest about those things. I used to say, I don't know how to do it, and nobody knows how to do it. Really, that's really something. But I've since graduated in pursuit of music, you know, and well, that's nice.
Mm. And does it? Do you ever get surprised what your voice can do? I mean, what
yes.
can happen? Does it surprise you, your vocal capability?
If I'm not surprised, then I'm bored to death. If I'm not surprised, then I don't want to do it anymore. Then I would have retired. But what's happened, contrary to the mythology, let's say, about the voice, and the mythology makers about the vocal instrument, that is that I've learned to do more over the years rather than less. Far more. Far, far more. And it's just that you have to attend to the demands of the instrument, the vocal instrument. But you also, again, if you have ears, then